they have recently, they being the general they, done a study which looked at a couple different snake farms and figured out that breeding pythons for meat is more energy
Oh,
and resource efficient than almost all current livestock production. And
wow.
now there are large groups looking into whether or not python meat is going to be an alternative sustainable protein source moving forward.
That's amazing. What is there so I assume it's more sustainable because they procreate like rabbits or what?
Well, not really, but they do procreate quickly, not like rabbits, but I know what you meant by that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they lay big clutches of eggs. It's easy to breed pythons. They grow quickly. They were looking mostly at Burmese pythons, which are the ones that are a problem in the Everglades.
Yeah, yeah.
They grow really fast and they get big. They can grow. Where did I see? I saw it here. Despite receiving food only once per week, both species, they were referring to retics and berms, grew rapidly and put on 1.6 ounces per day over a 12-month period. So they're only feeding them once per week, and they were putting on 1.6 ounces a day. So just
Mhm.
the compare that to feeding chickens or cows, and it's crazy. So
What's a pound? 16 ounces?
that
32?
sound that sounds right.
Anyway, so it's basically like half a month to a month per pound
Yeah,
you're going on here.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
And
plus
that's if you feed them slowly. I mean, you could feed
yeah,
them faster and they grow more quickly and everything else. But yeah,
plus
I
they
mean,
eat like rats and shit that, you know,
well, exactly right. Yeah.
that's pretty incredible, dude. It's better than what all the conspiracy theorists are peddling now about the government making us eat insects. Would you rather eat snakes or insects?
I don't know about that. That's a conspiracy thing?
Yeah, so it's like, they think that the government takes everything that you got, you'll never own anything, and now they wanna feed you insects. 'Cause, they're looking in much like they're looking into this sustainable form of
Yeah.
providing food en
Insect
masse.
protein's great.
Yeah,
Like, it should be more of a thing. It's just gross.
so you have yeah, exactly. But so you have, like, the same round of nuts who are into all the flat earth conspiracies and the other things that think the government's against you and all this, and don't get me wrong, I am somewhat, but, they can, create or frame everything in an angle where
Oh,
the government's against us because they wanna use crickets for food.
I mean, do you think that there's any merit to that? By the way, I think governments should want to feed us crickets for food because
Yeah.
it is a fantastic alternative protein source. And if you've ever had it, if you've ever had cricket protein powder, which they make, or mealworm protein, it's not bad. It's just fucking gross. Like, I just don't really want to eat
It's not
crickets.
bad, but it's
Well, it
gross.
doesn't taste bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Yeah,
bad.
if you
Courtney
didn't know it was
Borgerson,
crickets.
if you didn't know it was crickets, you'd be like, "Yeah, this is pretty good."
Mm.
Courtney Borgeson, who both Pat and I have worked with in Madagascar a couple different times on various projects. She's a primatologist and also an anthropologist. Um, that's like one of her big things is trying to push the people of Madagascar who are either hunting lemurs and bushmeat to death or basically starving to death. She's trying to push them to start their own insect farms, like in their villages and things, to get sustainable protein.
Yeah.
And everywhere that she's done it, there's like a massive increase in health. Like basically all these people who are starving to death or just killing lemurs and eating bushmeat are now
Mhm.
like getting sustainable protein. It's super easy. They can feed them all of their scraps, like, leftover bush cuttings and crap like that.
Yeah,
And it's gone like really, really well. But the
that's
difference
great.
is it works well there because I'm sure it still doesn't replace lemur meat, because it's like you either have a steak or you have a bug, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's like the difference being that's a nation that's starving to death in famine,
Yeah.
versus America where it's like, well, you want a hamburger or a cricket burger? It's like, I'll probably have the hamburger.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
think that's the problem. But I wish people were more open minded to. I didn't know about this conspiracy theory. I never even heard of it, but I wish people were more open minded to the whole thing because it is, myself included, it is like a great sustainable protein source, and I feel the same way about it as I do when it comes to the pythons. It's like, do I want to eat a snake? No, sounds pretty disgusting to be quite honest. I mean,
Yeah.
I've actually tried snake before, but would I like order python at a restaurant? Like, absolutely not. That sounds awful.
Well,
Um,
I actually do know there's this restaurant called, I forget, it's this German place. It's like kind of a mini chain around here. Damn it, I wish I could remember the name, but
yeah,
they serve, rattlesnake, uh, dogs or whatever,
yeah,
sausages,
yeah.
rattlesnake sausages. They're delicious though, dude.
Are
So
they?
I'm just like, I could definitely see that as something that could be more taken on by the mainstream than the insect thing with the
Yeah.
python meat. I mean, it's meat, you know?
You have to, like
Verskust is the name of the place. Verskush.
you have to, like, trickle feed this out to people, right? You can't go
Yes.
from, "Here's a nice juicy steak," to, "Here's a mealworm," you
Right.
know? You have to go, "Okay, here's a nice juicy steak. Okay, here's a fucking street pigeon. Okay, here's a python. Okay, here's a mealworm." You know what I mean?
Totally.
If you transition people off of what they're used to that way, it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, well, I tried pigeon," or whatever the next thing is, you know what I mean? "Alright, I
Yep.
tried that. Oh, yeah, I'll try crickets." If you go from steak to fucking mealworm, it's like, yeah, no, thank you. I'm gonna stick to the steak. Like, I don't care if the planet burns down.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's just not clever. But at the same time, it's like what's the alternative? Like you want to start pushing these things so people understand it. But anyway, it's yeah, I don't know. It's the whole thing's interesting.
Well, it's a weird thing though because like taste, right? And like the ability to eat like if you don't know it's such a psychological thing. If you don't know what it is,
Yeah.
you're just like this is great. If I ate python meat and I didn't know what it was, you didn't tell me and I didn't think it was going to be something weird, and it was a sausage, I'd be like this is delicious, I'm sure.